Right, getting a bit carried away here. I started working and forgot to switch camera on. But basically what I've done is I've put the bearing on, dust shield, seal. I'll show you on this other, on the other cap. Basically it's the same as what's underneath this bearing. With the kit comes with a seal and the dust shield. Well, the dust shields didn't come with the kit, I bought them separate, but basically that's what's underneath this bearing. So I've put that on, put the bearing on, and as I say, I forgot to put the camera on, but basically just aluminium tube down over the bearing, big brass hammer, tapped it down. Normally I would have pressed it on, but my press is buried in the back of the garage at the minute and it's just one bearing, so I thought sod it. So that can go over there. And what I have been doing, and this is when I realised that I should be putting the camera on, just stick that to one side for now and adjust this camera. Originally I said I wasn't going to knock the races out. Let me zoom in a bit. But I started knocking the races out because I am going to... I need to change the battery as well. Right, I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to knock the races out. I was just going to mock it up, and I thought, well, I've got them to do, so I might as well do them. So I started knocking these out, and then that's when I thought, oh, I should be filming this. So basically, just get my little tool in and just wedging it in. Just keep moving it around so it's coming out equally. And that's the bottom race out. And now well, I'll just zoom out and I'll show you what I use to do this. Basically, it's just a piece of machined sort of with nice sharp edges sort of thing, if you know what I mean. And it just wedges into the bearing, sorry, the race, because there's a gap. If I go into the top one, for instance, I'll zoom in a bit just to show you, and I'll lift you off in a second, show you a bit better what I'm back out. Yeah, if you drop it down through the headstock and then put the washer so that it's actually underneath the bearing, the race, that's wedged in now. So what I'll do is I'll just lift you off there a minute and show you. So as you can see underneath the race there, let's lift that out of the way, underneath the race you can see there's a gap. So basically you get the washer in and get it underneath the lip, and you keep rotating it, keep getting it stuck, and don't usually do this one-handed. Keep rotating it under each side and like so that it comes out equally, and just knock it out. So I've got this one to do. I'll just put you back on here. Zoom in a touch, lift that up a cock there. But I'll knock you off a second, I'll try and get it in a better position so you can see what I'm doing a bit better. So I'll be back in a minute. Right, You've got to persevere with this. To start with, it jumps out sometimes. I'll just move some stuff on the floor so I can get in. Yeah, when you first start tapping it, it actually jumps out. So, as I say, get it wedged in, give it a tap, keep moving it around so it comes out equally. And as you see there, just pops out. It's a good way of doing it because you're not like trying to lever anything in. You're not trying to hook it and pull, and it's just a simple bit of threaded bar with a big washer on it. So what I'll do now is I'll just give this lot a clean out. I'll just zoom out a touch. I'll give this a clean out top and bottom, and then we'll start putting the new races in. So I'll knock you off, give this a clean out, and then I'll come back. Right, I've give them a wipe out, and I've put a tiny little bit of sort of lube around the headstock just to help that go in. If I get one of me Hello.
Hello.
Right, back again. That was my girlfriend coming to tell me my dinner was ready. Right, what I've done, I've actually tapped this in probably about a millimetre, and then obviously remembered to put the camera on, and I wanted to actually show you just in there's a ridge, and that basically is where this taps down to. So I just thought I'd quickly show you that. I meant to show you before I put the new race in. So I'll just zoom out a bit. Now, just a nice, solid, clean. It's actually a press tool. Get it centered on the thing, and then just lightly tap it. Don't nearly in. You don't need to hit it super hard, you just want to gently drive that in. So what I'll do is I'll just keep tapping until that's flush with the headstock, and then what I'll do is I'll use the old race to sit on there just to tap it the rest of the way in. Right, you can hear by that change of noise that's now level with the top of the headstock. So, let's put this over here. If I get my torch again, I'll see if I can see how far off it is. So that now is probably about 2 mil off, sitting on that ridge. So I've got a bit of rag. And I'll clean off one of the old races that I've just knocked out. top of that a wipe. Now you can use the old race, the flat mating surface, obviously it'll be near enough identical to the new one, and you can just keep my fingers out of the way, make sure it's lined up. Now that's in up against the step, and again when you're using your bit on there, just gentle taps. Now I have noticed over time that this camera picks up these bangs and it makes it sound as if I'm really giving it a whack, but you could see from the distance I was going with it that I'm not massively whacking it in. It's just gentle taps and then you won't damage anything. So that's in, that's the top one in, just the bottom one to do. So, as I won't be able to set you up to see the bottom one properly, I'll knock you off, get the bottom one in, and then I'll come back and we'll start putting these yokes in. Right, back soon. These bearings will come in obviously in a plastic bag, but they also come in the actual bearing itself comes in another like plastic wrapper. It's basically so when it's in storage it's not metal to metal on the thing, because if they stand for too long and get any form of rust on, it transfer over onto the bearing, onto the race. You've got a fucked headstock bearing basically. So the bearing's just gone back in the bag for now to keep it clean, and I'm just going to double check, because I did this before. I can't remember whether I did the bottom. Just put a little bit of oil, if you remember what I said, I put a little bit of lube in the top there to help it go in, and I did in the bottom as well. Right, the tools. I know I said I wasn't going to show this, but you probably won't see it properly anyways. So push it in as best you can with your hand and make sure it's sort of somewhere near flush, as in level. You don't want it sort of going in cockeyed. And then it basically exactly the same as the top. And as you can hear there, same as before, that's now striking the bottom of the headstock. So again, the same as before, get the old race, get it placed on. Trying not to squash my fingers here. Once it goes so far in, it sort of lines itself up because it's going into the headstock. That's what happens when you hit it and let go at the same time. I'll get my torch, because I think that might have gone all the way in. Clean any stuff off that might have, because it flew on the floor obviously. Just make sure it's clean. And I'm just going to give this another, I think it's there, but I just want to make sure it's giving the same noise all the way around. Yeah, that's in all the way now. So that's the races out and the new ones put in. Now I'm going to put these in dry. I don't want to grease them up yet because they're going to come back out. So basically what I can do, get the top yoke with the bearing fitted and just carefully shove it down the hole. Make sure it's going to sit over there, which it is, which is cool. There's a bit of condensation on here. A bit strange weather today, it keeps going hot and cold. Right, I'm going to knock you off, move you into a different position, and then we'll get the rest of this yokes sort of put together. Right, back soon. Right, now one thing I will say is remember that when I'm putting this bottom yoke on, there's a plate to go in it as well, which I haven't made yet. Now it won't matter just for mock-up, it's not going to sort of drastically alter anything, it just means that the bottom yoke will be further down when I've got the plate in. So I'll get the bearing out. Take its plastic cover off. Now basically I can shove that up into the it's a pain in the ass. There's something just slightly catching these. Just makes it a bit awkward. I'll clean that off. When I take it apart again, I'll just probably use a bit of emery and just very lightly, I think there's a high spot which is just catching the inner race on the bearing. Right, so next thing is the seal and the dust cover. In fact, because that bearing won't go in, I'm going to do it now. Well, I'm going to knock you off. I'm just going to take this top yoke back out and I'm just going to clean this bit of shaft where there's obviously something catching. So I'll knock you off for a minute and I'll come back when I've cleaned it up. Right, there's a bit on here, you can just see that bit there. It's slightly thicker than the rest. It's for the bearing, so it's a nice snug fit. And there was you can hardly see it, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but just on that bit there was a tiny little nick, and I've just took it off slightly with the file till it felt smooth, and then I've just gone round it with some 1000 grit, cleaned it up, and now the bearing goes on a bit easier. So I'll put this back on. Put the bearing in. See there, the bearing goes straight up now, which is how it should be. So now the the seal and the dust cap can go on. Hold that in place. The bottom yoke can go on. Now this is where, after that dust cover, the plate would go on that acts as a fork stop. But as I say, I haven't made it yet. So I'll get the nut. This This is just for mock-up, so it doesn't really matter. Right, another one here somewhere. I'll just find a socket that'll fit that. Now then, one thing I don't know is whether I've got room for a socket to go in there. Just. Oh. I'm just nipping it up lightly. Now, that nut that I've just put on was the thick one. If you remember, I showed you the two. There's one thick one and one thin one. What I'm going to do before this is finally finished is I'm going to turn the thick one down to that. I made a thick one and a thin one because I didn't know at the time how far apart these were going to be. So I've got room to screw that on to lock it, but there's not a lot of room. So if I cut that in half, there's going to be enough room for my plate to go in there, and then enough room to put both of them on to be able to lock it up. And then underneath, the little chrome cover goes on, and I'm pretty sure that I had a screw for this. There it is. Right, so that's the yokes on, temporarily. So the next thing is to feed the forks up. But one thing I will have to do is give the insides of these a clean and the inside of these a clean, like so that there's no in there. And I'll have to pick the rubber. There's a piece of rubber that goes in the top, like a seal. It's still in the other yokes at the minute, so I'll get that and then I'll put the forks in. But I'll clean this up first. I'll knock it off and then I'll come back once I've cleaned it up. Right, I've cleaned them out. I've got the rubbers off the other one. The rubbers I'm on about, they're just a black, flat, sort of 5mm thick rubber. They actually go in the top of the yoke, and then your bolt goes in, and it's basically seals. So, let's put that on there a second. I'll get the fork leg. So this is the brake side, which is this side. Alright, so that's put my rubber in. I'm just going to wind these down. I won't tighten that clamp up as yet. See what I mean by it can go all the way around with no stops on. That's why I need to make the plate that goes in. So I'll get rid of the fork leg. In fact, I'll get rid of the top nut as well. And the washer, the rubber washer. Straight in without any sort of hassle. Actually, it looks quite. I don't know if you can see on the camera. Fucking condensation in here is unreal at the minute. I'll have to put the heater on. Right, I think the next step is to put the front wheel in and then drop it down and see how it's going to look. Also, on the last video, I was on about mounting rubbers for the handlebars, and I'd ordered some, which that's basically all they are. They go in obviously here, and it's like sort of anti-vibration type thing for your handlebars. Right, I'm just going to knock you off a minute and get my front wheel bits ratched out and move some. I've got a pile of tools on the floor here in the way, and I'll come back when I'm ready to put the front wheel on. Right, I've got my wheel just here. What I've done off camera is I've lowered the jack until the frame at the bottom is level. So what I want to do now, lucky enough to see a tape measure kicking about. Maybe should have found one before I put the camera on. Ugh. I'll use a ruler instead. One of the first things I'll do is I'll put this fork the right way around. Now the forks are fully extended with no weight on them, obviously, because it's not sitting on its front end. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the front wheel in, get the yokes sort of level-ish. Now the front wheel's quite a way off going straight in, so what I'm just going to do is crawl out on the floor like it's some sort of creature, and I'm just going to measure. If I sort of put it in line of where the fork would be, and measure. Now that, as it is at the minute, if the forks were 1.5 inch longer, I'd be able to put the shaft through. So I'm correcting my thinking that if I put 2-inch longer forks in, by the time you set it up and then take the weight off the jack, the front end will sink a little bit and it'll be pretty much level. So I am going to have 2-inch longer forks. So that is what I'm going to have to do. Now, as I've stated, these forks were going to be getting rebuilt. So what I'll do now is I'll knock you off. I'll go in and I'll order some 2-inch longer stanchions, some new ones. I've already got the rebuild kit. I actually need to get some fork oil, and I think while I'm on with it I'll get a set of progressive springs for the front as well. So I think for now I'm going to call it a day. But I think them yokes do look quite tidy, and once the headlight's back on, and just lift this up a touch. Yeah, once the headlight's back on and the handlebars, the line, I'll bring the bars up with the line of the forks. Now it'll pull the handlebars back a bit, which will be absolutely spot on for her, because she was sort of reaching out when she used to ride this, leaning forward ever so slightly to reach the bars. So the bars are going to actually be moved backwards a little bit to keep it in line with the forks. So yeah, it's spot on. So I'm happy now. Now I know what I need fork wise. I can get on and order them, and then I think what will probably be the next video will probably be these forks actually getting stripped down, ready for a rebuild, unless I come across a set of nice custom forks, which I might just buy. We'll see. Right, knock you off for now, and I'll catch you next time.